Hi, this is Dr. Don, and this is a video of the Hangout, at least a partial video of the Hangout we had last night. And I apologize. I posted a note to ask someone to remind me to start copying the Hangout when we started. Unfortunately, we had some audio problems, and the only person who remembered to remind me, I couldn't hear, and so we lost about 15 minutes or so of the Hangout recording. So I apologize for that. I'll do better. I hope this is useful to you. We were not captured. We just talked about an overview of a review of that, and I referred back to the couple of blog posts on my Dr. Don Wright blog about hypothesis tests. And particularly, we looked at some tables that will help you set up your hypothesis tests for your homework. And I'll put a link to those blogs in this video somehow. So thanks a bunch.
Produce a new worksheet with links based off of that data. So I had to cut it instead of copying, and I found that it would transfer everything over good.
Yeah, it is pretty robust as long as it knows where you started and where you ended up. The thing I've noticed in the past when I've been doing crazy things with it, if my data is in one directory on my hard drive and the problem is in another directory, and then I move things, in other words, I take a file and I email it to somebody, it'll break because it doesn't know where the data went. But other than that, as long as you have all the data in one, Excel file, you can rename it to your heart's extent. And I apologize. Susie just sent me a message. I made a post. I said, please remind me to start recording because I forget, and I forgot. Susie said, Natanya asked. Thank you, Natanya. I apologize. I forgot again to start the recording. It doesn't start on what I'm used to. I used to do these things with the original Google Hangouts, and the original Google Hangouts, you could just click a little checkbox and it would record automatically everything you did in Google Hangouts. Now, because they're trying to push people to do online videos and get more advertising, they moved that feature over to Google Hangouts-Air. And I've tried Google Hangouts-Air, but it means everybody in the whole world is looking at what we're doing, theoretically. And so I don't find that very good. And but anyway, I've started the video copy now, and I'll try to start remembering I've got to do that. Maybe I need to post a reminder. But any of y'all in the future, when we start one of these things, just remind me to start the video and the copy. So I will go back and try to put some more information in there for Natanya. Okay. Any other questions on that you might need to talk about or bring up? Look at another problem here. I'll look at that one. Let's look at number 4. I hope you can read that. This has to do with sales data. And it doesn't tell you how big the sample is. You'll have to do a count to see how many items are in the sales data, and then make a decision whether to use the Z-test or the t-test, depending upon how large the sample is. I see a lot of people read over this problem. There's really 2 parts to it. Does everybody see the 2 parts?
Yeah, the difference between the industry trade and the company,
Yeah, exactly. There's you would say there's 2 claims or 2 concepts that we need to test there. The first says the publication states that the average profit was at least $4,500. Again, you need to take that at least and go under that table and decide which operator that is, and then once you decide the operator, you can decide whether that's a null hypothesis claim or a alternative hypothesis claim. And then the other one says the company believes the profit exceeds 4,500. So they disagree with the trade publication. So you need to test both of those claims. One of those is going to be a left tail, and the other is going to be a right tail. So that's important that you catch the difference there and then run the right test. Okay. See, Susie says right support of the claim or not and test hypothesis. I'm not sure what that means. Can you restate that, Susan? I don't know why we can't hear those folks. I must have done something wrong this time, but
what I noticed was that when I accepted the Google Hangout, it brought me in to where I couldn't see your screen. I couldn't see Angela or other people. So I had to basically hang out, go into the link that you sent in the announcements. And then once I opened that, then I was able to see everything. So it was almost like if you joined the call from when everybody got invited, brought to you a different.
I to my knowledge, I didn't change anything, but I may have. Maybe I should build a new Hangout next time. Maybe this one's getting clogged up. I'll do that. I'll create a brand new Hangout for next time, and maybe that'll eliminate some of these problems. The third problem is a little bit different. It's pretty obvious. It's got 4 parts to it, A through D. But I asked you to read it carefully. Read the problem statements carefully, and then set up your problem based on exactly what it's saying. I'm not going to give away, and it's not a trick question. It's just trying to get you to really pay attention to what your boss asks you to do. And on one of these, I'll just say that the data that people tend to use includes more things than the boss is asking you to check. So I don't mean to play games there, but I one of the things I want you to get out of this is to really listen to your boss, read the questions in our case there, and don't just gloss over them and jump into the data. Make sure you're using the data that pertains to the questions being asked. And I hope that's enough. Because if I give you the answer, then the other your classmates won't like that. But I'm just going to suggest slow down, read these questions, and answer the question that's being asked specifically. Okay? Is that too fuzzy, or do y'all kind of get the idea of what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that works. That's why I was laughing, because I actually caught that going, like double checking, because it just seemed kind of off. And so I went back and reread the statement and realized it was like, had the same, that epiphany.
I have to admit, the first time I taught this course with these set of problems, and I got the solution from Evans, I said, he messed up. That's not the right answer. Because I worked it, and I did the same thing. I've read right over, the specifics of the question, and I solved the wrong problem. And it took me a couple hours where I finally realized that, no, I just didn't read the question, carefully. So the last problem there talks about baseball, and it gives you some data before and after. What does before and after tell you? What does that a clue to? What type of test is it?
A two-tailed?
That it should be a population sample, like you have two samples or two populations.
Well,
and
a before and after is not two populations. It's usually one population. Let me give you a clue here. I'm going to just pick here. Can you see that? What does it say? Paired t-test. What's the difference between a dependent sample and an independent sample? That's the way you see it in your statistic courses. A dependent sample is when the samples are connected in some way. And most commonly, we see paired samples. And this can be students that are tested before and after they take a lesson. It can be husband and wife. They're paired because, being together, they influence each other. That's a paired test. There are a number of things, that you'd run across where you would say, wait a minute, this is not independent samples. If we're looking at two different teams, if we were looking at, the Braves and the Marlins, is Marlins? Yeah, Marlins baseball, and looked at their attendance, that would not be a paired sample, would it? We're looking at two different groups. In this case, we're looking at one team before they moved and after they moved. So wouldn't that be a paired sample? I'm just going to leave it out there and let you think about it. If it is a paired sample, then you need to run the paired sample tests. If they're independent samples, then you would not run a paired sample. You would run, just the t-test, either the pool variance or separate variance. Do y'all know? By the way, do y'all know what that means when it says pool variance versus separate variance?
Yeah, it's where the two things you're testing, or it has to deal with the size of the variance as far as that they're assumed pretty equal.
That's right.
Or close to.
That's right. Back in the 233 and your intro course in academic world, whoever writes the questions usually will say, assume this is equal variances, or do not assume it's equal variances. If it's an equal variance, we use the pool variance test. If it's not equal variances, we use a separate variance test. The real world, kind of like this problem here, you don't know if the variances are different. What you can do, if you have enough data, you can actually run a test to see if the variances are equal. That's something I don't think we covered too well in Business 233. Some intro courses cover it. You can actually do the analysis of the variance to see if the variances are different. What I recommend to people in the business world is to just to plot the data using a box plot. And the box plot, you can look pretty quickly, and it gives you, if you remember correctly, the 5-number summary, which gives you the median. It gives you Q1, Q3. It gives you your max and min. And by looking at the two box plots, you can say, that looks pretty equal to me, or it doesn't look equal to me. When you in the real business world, no one's going to tell you assume equal variances or don't assume equal variances. Big difference than taking a test in intro statistics. Whether or not it's a two-tail or a one-tail Susie depends on the claim. And in this one, what's the claim? It says, is there a reason to believe the attendance has changed? Okay, keyword has changed. What does has changed mean? If we're looking at, let me go back here. I can find my tables. Whoops. Zoom up here. I'm not zooming very fast. There it is. Okay, we got my good old table here. If it's changed, if the mean attendance before is different than the mean attendance after, which operator is that?
Does not equal.
Not equal. Exactly. It's changed. It's different. Has changed. So that means that the claim or the thing we're investigating is we think the attendance has changed because it's a not equal. That makes it which? The null or the alternative? Makes it the, there you go, Susie says alternative. There you go. I've got it highlighted there in orange or whatever color that is. If you've got a not equal operator, that makes the claim the alternative, and then we can set up our hypothesis test pretty straightforward. A not equal is a one tail, two tail, left tail, right tail, two tail, right? Correct? Yes, a two-tail test. If I have graphs down here, I got this blown up so much it's slow to move. There we go. I've got these good old graphs that I like to make using StatCrunch. I don't know if any of y'all used StatCrunch back when you were doing your intro statistics. This is one of the neatest things about StatCrunch. It draws, whenever you're doing a test, it will draw these sketches, and it really helps people, keep from making an error. A two-tail test means we've got two critical areas, and in this one here, for 95% confidence, which is a 0.05 significance, that gives us our critical values for a z-test of plus and minus 1.96. That's the rejection areas or the white areas on this one. A one-tail test either is a right tail, upper tail, that's rejection area over here, or we've got a left tail, lower tail, rejection area over here. If you've got a lower tail, your critical value is always a minus. If we've got a right tail, upper tail, the critical values, whether it's a z or a t or a chi-square, are always positive. If we've got a two-tail, then we've got two critical values, plus and minus. So just kind of review that a little bit. Let me go back here. This one. Okay. That's about as much help as I can give you on the homework without working it for you. Any questions in general about it?
I guess with this one, the reason why I thought it would be two different samples was because, but now I see where you're saying that they are dependent, because that the population of the first team that was still there is still, I guess, part of, I'm getting what it's saying now. So for that, we would use a paired test.
I beg your pardon. I haven't looked at this problem in a while. I thought this was all about San Francisco. You are so right. Thank you for catching me. I just read it again. There again, read the problems. I was doing this from memory. I forgot that this is San Francisco alone and then San Francisco with Oakland A's. Thank you for catching me. That was a major bobo. You're right. The safe thing to do here would not to be assumed paired, because it is San Francisco alone, Oakland A, and San Francisco after. I forgot about that. Thanks for catching that, Bill.
Not a problem. I just want to make sure I understood. So for like that, my is it okay if I talk about my null hypothesis and alternative?
Sure.
Okay, I'll just share my screen real quick.
Let's see, I need to stop sharing here so I can see yours. Okay, I can see it. Can y'all see it? Susan, Angela? Susie can't see it. Now she can. Angela can see it. Okay.
So for my null for this one, I was saying that the mean of the first group is minus the mean of the second group, or sorry, the other way around, that there is no difference. And then, but really the alternative hypothesis would be the claim in this sense, that the difference is that, am I going down the right path?
No, you're exactly right. Remember, when you're looking at problem statements, one, read them, which I was using my memory instead of reading it. But yes, if you're looking at the difference in two means, which we are in this case, then we generally always assume that the difference is zero. Once in a blue moon, you will have a situation where somebody says, we think the difference is 100,000 more people attended. But 90% of the time, you're going to assume that the difference is zero.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. I just want to make sure I was remembering still from good from 2 through 3.
Okay. Did you run a z-test or t-test?
I scrolled down and I ran
a t-test.
Yeah, a t-test with but again, here's where you have to look at the whole, whether it's pooled or separate variants.
Right.
And then select it from there.
And you calculated, go back, I think you calculated the variance. And
yes, I did the descriptive, what I did on each of these problems was I first ran the descriptive statistics to kind of help, put everything into something that made sense to me. And then that's where I could tell, okay, how close is my variance?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's difficult to tell whether or not the two variances are quote unquote equal just from looking at raw data sometimes. You have to run another analysis to see if those are statistically different. My gut would say you're right. My experience has been that generally you're safer to assume that variances are not equal.
Okay.
So in this case, you look at that and you say 29,000 versus 92,000. That's not equal to me, so I would run not equal. But you really don't know unless you run that next step to actually run the hypothesis test of variances to see if they're statistically different. I think you're right; they are different, and that test would show it. But I just wanted to mention that. For what we're doing here. Generally, just as glance at them like that. If you did a box plot, your gut would say those are different, and that's usually the safe bet to assume that they're different.
Okay, I definitely appreciate that.
Okay. Anybody else have a question? Let me go back. Let's see. There's me, and I'll call up the problem again. Anybody have any questions on anything, other than the homework that you want to talk about?
No, my only real issue was I ran it, and I know we talked about it in the previous Hangout, was the copying specifically my graphs into the case study. For some reason, when I first copied it over, it'd be fine. But then as soon as I started moving around the document, it would show that there was a graph there, but the graph itself had actually disappeared. So I had to basically do screenshot, save it, and stick it in. So
it used to be easy. I think as they kept adding capability to Word and Excel, it made some things that used to be easy difficult. I know when I did my dissertation, of course, that was about 10 years ago. I was able to link them, and it worked fine. I never had a problem with that. But obviously, it's gotten more difficult than it used to be. So if you're having a problem, getting a table to look properly in a report, go ahead and do a screenshot and stick an image in. And for our work here, of course, you don't have any more case studies for this course, but if you send me the Excel file as well as the Word file, then I can look at what you did in Excel and help evaluate what you did. But yeah, that's. I haven't really tried to insert a live graph from Excel in a while, so it's probably gotten more difficult.
Yeah, what I found is that they've actually made it easier for a lot of the basic stuff, where if you build your table into, like if you move that data, copy it over into the document, you can actually build the graph in Word using Excel in the background. And it still has that common link of where the data is coming from. But like I said, even though my tables and my graphs were all coming from the same place, whenever I copied it over,
Yeah.
it just went all haywire on me.
And I wanted to mention too, so some folks, the last time we talked, I think I may have mentioned using the standard error, on those graphs. Last time I did this, Excel let me put in a custom value for the error bar, and I just put in there the actual margin of error. I don't know if it allows you to do that anymore. Do you know, Bill? Anybody else know if it allows you to do that?
I know it'll let you set like percentages, and I think it'll let you put in individual values. But I basically had to go in there and customize the entire graph to get it to do what I thought it would look like. Because when I tried using the regular just box plot, if I received that, it'd be very hard for me to interpret the differences. So customize it a little bit of what the data was actually looking at.
Right. Like I said, I'll have to try to reconstruct that problem myself. I haven't worked it myself in about a year, and I've upgraded my Excel since then. And when I was just trying to do it quickly last week, I didn't see what I used to see when I did it. So they keep changing things. Angela says Excel 16 is not saving your graphs always. I haven't run into that. I don't know if anybody else has. It moves it. Yeah. I've noticed that 216 is very sensitive. If you drag your cursor too close to the graph, it'll sometimes pick it up and move it. I've run into that. But generally, it always saves it. It just may not be where I think it is. So, but it's there. I know some of the stuff that you're being asked to do for this course may seem picky, but really what we're trying to do is to get you to flex your Excel muscles and to learn how to take data, interpret it, and then communicate the results. That's what your boss is going to need. Your boss doesn't want to see a raw table. Your boss doesn't want to see a cluttered graph. They want to see you communicate to them, and if you're making a presentation at work, that your tables and your charts are clear and understandable. So that's really what I hope you get out of this. This is not an Excel course per se. What I'm trying to get you to do is learn to take whatever tool you have and then communicate clearly with it. It's just that most companies still use Excel. Most executives still use Excel to do these kinds of things. So it's a useful tool. Okay, anybody else? We're about out of time. I will, save this video, I hope. I'll put it on my YouTube channel, then I'll put a link in the course so that people can find the video. And I apologize again that I forgot for the first 20 minutes to start it recording. And I say I'll put it on YouTube. This is going to be a huge video file. So I've never saved anything larger than 15 minutes to my YouTube. I don't know if they'll do that, but I'll figure out. There's a 503 student just showed up. Hello. We're just shutting down 4:30. You're welcome to stick around. Anybody else in 4:30 have anything? I'll make one final comment. I put a post in the discussions there in 4:30. I'm glad that people are doing the Google get together, the study group. I think it's good, and I encourage people to build a personal learning network and learn to work with people that are virtual from where they are. I just made the comment that don't share total files because I want everybody to learn how to do something. And if you give somebody a total file, they're not learning. Give them screenshots, show them how to, how you set things up, but then, let them flex their muscles to reproduce what you did. Okay, 4:30, folks. I appreciate your showing up, and I'll see you in the course.